Good afternoon, everyone. It's Wednesday, and yet another day for us to come together for the third part of our eight-part webinar entitled The Entrepreneur's Money Journey. Some house rules were placed into the chat earlier, by which we asked if everyone would please keep their mics muted. And we did ask if each and every one of you beautiful entrepreneurs, male and female, would be so inclined to turn your cameras on so that we could relate more to each other. You know that Monday we had a little technical problem. So the Monday corny joke that was carded, obviously, it couldn't be executed. But just because we enjoy y'all so much, we have another corny joke to address Monday's technological challenges. Here it goes. Well, we know that we logged in on Monday and we weren't able to get in. So to err is human, and to blame it on the computer is even more so. Okay, without any further ado, allow me to introduce our panelists for this evening, who will be leading the discussion on pricing for profit. Adana Austin is a business coach and marketing consultant who runs her own business called Marketing Dynamics Business Solutions. She manages an enthusiastic Facebook group of over 4,000 entrepreneurs called Dynamic Business Strategists, and works quite closely with entrepreneurs to develop their business mindsets. Adana is also an avid writer and blogger. Additionally, we have Mr. Sajjad Hamid, who lectures on entrepreneurship, family business management, and marketing. Mr. Hamid writes a column entitled Entreprenomics in a leading local newspaper and has published over 200 articles that advise small and medium-sized enterprises and family business owners. Sajjad assists SME owners in growing their ventures through training and consulting. This entrepreneurship expert possesses qualifications in family business advising, business administration, marketing, and business psychology. Without any further ado, I welcome Sajjad to the platform. Sajjad?
Thank you very much, Afisha. Thanks for that lovely introduction. So I'll be talking about this evening. Good evening, everyone. Glad that you're here. I don't know how many people are here. Oh, 124. That's great, right? And by the time I'm done, we're going to go to 200, right? All right. So I'm glad you could join me for pricing for profit, which is a very important area in building your business and growing it. So I want to pull up my PowerPoint here. I guess you can see it, right, Afisha? Right. Let me make it bigger. Right. You seen it, Afisha?
Yes,
Right.
we see it quite clearly. Thank you.
Right. So we're going to talk about how to optimize your pricing, right? Now, pricing is like a bit of science and a bit of art. So you got to know how to mix and match as you go along, right? So what I'm going to cover today is why pricing is important to your business. Well, you probably have an idea about that already, right? Why pricing can be a bit tricky, and I've had my issues with pricing. I still have some challenges with it, and I could talk about that and how I got over it and how I made mistakes and that sort of thing. I'm going to talk about pricing either a product. Some of you may have a product, which is different from pricing a service, right? And I'll talk about the different types of pricing strategies you could have. And I want you to chat, if you want, you could just start to type in what maybe a mistake you made in pricing in your business in the past or whatever, and maybe how do you go about pricing. Maybe you could type in use this technique, this technique, this technique, so we could review it and we could talk. I guess we'll be taking questions at the end, Afisha, or we're taking it as I pause to answer the chat. Right. Okay. All right.
We'll be addressing questions after the session,
Right.
but persons are welcome to put their questions in the chat.
Right. And at the end, I have a free gift for you. I offered this last time. So if you were there last Wednesday, the same gift, but you might find that very interesting, right? All right. So I want to talk about the importance of pricing, right? One is that we know about what the marketing mix is, the product, the place, the promotion, right? And pricing is the only thing that brings in revenue for you, right? Brings in sales to you. So you have to get it right. Because if it brings in sales, it has the potential to make profit. And we know revenue is your unit price that you charge multiplied by the volume that you do, right? Now, volume is also, if you remember your basic economics, volume is influenced by price. So normally the higher price, the lower your volume. But in marketing is a little bit more tricky than that. Sometimes you could charge people more and they may actually buy more, but we'll come to that, right? And this is where I sometimes at odds with the economists, right? Now, one of the nice things about pricing is that if you price too low, people may feel that your product quality is not good. Now, quality is more of a perception because some things you really can't tell the exact quality of it. So sometimes people use price as a gauge. And sometimes on Amazon, I see two products. I can't tell the difference. And sometimes I go for the one that is priced higher. Of course, nowadays you on Amazon you could check and see how many people reviewed it, and you might find out that the one that is lower price is the better one, right? But you're not like Amazon, so you might get away with that. Now, why pricing can be a tricky thing, right? Well, here's why. There's a little psychology in this thing, right? Now, pricing, having the right price is full of uncertainty. Should I charge more? Should I charge less? Should I charge as much as everybody else? If I know starting business, maybe I need to get business, I need to charge a little bit more. You might say, well, I just set up my little plant here and I need to get more business because I can't have all the equipment I'm paying for loan and all that kind of thing, right? So one of the things you want to consider, or two things you want to consider, is how my customers are going to react to this price that I charge, right? Are they going to start a ball and say, boy, your price too high, right? And then they'll come and roll back your price. Or the people that you sell through. Now, if you have a product, like let's say you're selling something through Massy stores. Let's say you're selling coconut chutney, but they don't have coconut chutney. You should figure out why you don't have coconut chutney on the shelf. And I think that might be a seller. You have to figure out how much they're going to mark up. Now, in frozen foods in supermarkets, normally they mark up around 35%. So if you sell it to them for $10, they'll mark it up 35%. And you have to figure out now, will it sell? Right? Because they have to make money. Of course, you have to make money, but the customer must get some value out of it. Now, another thing you may want to consider is how my competitors are going to react, and will they have an edge on me? Now, here's how you could play a little trick with your customer. This is really psychology coming in. Is that people could compare oranges with oranges, but if everybody is selling oranges, and some have yellow oranges, and some may have slightly green and bigger oranges and small oranges. If you position yourself as selling pomegranate, it becomes very difficult for them to compare. Now, this is what BMW and Audi and Mercedes-Benz do. They're all luxury cars. They're all probably made in Germany. But people see an Audi as different from a Mercedes, and a Mercedes is different from, let's say, a Volvo. Well, I don't think that's German, and so forth. So you have to kind of like play around with that a little bit. And I'll talk a little bit about branding later on. My last session at the end of this month, we'll talk about branding, but I'll touch on it a little bit later on. Now, one thing I want you to remind you about pricing. When you lower your price, sometimes to get it back up is be a real problem, right? So you got to be careful. Anytime I lower my price, I tend to ask for something back. Like recently, I quoted somebody a price and they said, well, it's a little bit expensive. I said, no problem. What about if you give me 3 more sessions and I'll lower the price by 10%? And what I did there was I gave them something, but I took back something in return because it doesn't cost your customer anything to just open them out and say, I want a lower price. And I tell you, if they're from Shogunas, they must ask you for a discount. As a culture where I live in Shogunas. I just joking, right? So you got to know how to play around with that because every time they open them out, you get them at 10%. And the end of the day, when you check your bill, you say, oh, God, I lost money this time. And you can't negotiate with TNTech Flow, whoever you're buying from, because you small, you can't tell nobody anything, right? So just remember prices like that. Now I just want to give you a trick from the automobile companies is that when they want to raise the price, they change the model. Sometimes just to change the grill and a couple of things and they raise the price. And you say, oh, it's an X car, right? And you buy it. And you buy it more, right? All right. So anybody want to put anything in the chat saying that how they were able to um, arrive at the right price? Let me see if I can move my PowerPoint. Right. So we have some questions there. So official always bring it to my attention. So some of you will be selling a product and the game is different if you're selling a service, right? So a product, I just want to go through it and some of you may know this. I just bring it to the surface so I can build on my next slide. It's something tangible. Now, when something is tangible, people can assess its worth, its value, the benefit versus the cost that they're paying for it very easily, right? A product could be stored. So if it can't be sold today, you could sell it tomorrow. Pricing tends to be less complicated here, right? And some products, this is where you could catch them, could come with a service, right? And when it comes with a service, it becomes a little bit difficult for them to play around with, right? Right. So on the service side, of course, a service is opposite product. It is intangible. Now, when something is intangible, it is very difficult for people to kind of figure it out. What value this could give me, right? Also, it's more difficult to sell. Training products, for example, is sometimes difficult. People tell me sometimes, "Oh God, is training too expensive?" And I reply, if you think training is expensive, try ignorance. And it's not a laugh. I think I'm a comedian, right? But I just quote in Peter Drucker for those who know what Peter Drucker, right? And then they think about it, they say, well, if you don't train our people, what is going to happen is that they are going to make one set of mess in the organization. Maybe it's customer service. I don't teach customer service, but they're going to make one set of mess and cost me more. So they say, okay, no problem, I'll pay the price, right? A service is also tied to the provider, and we'll talk about Bali a little bit down. I mean, I don't have much here in my head, but I mean, over the years, I've learned to respect those people here on the head. So, so when you see you're going by Bali, the hairstylist, it has a certain thing in your mind. You see you're going by the best man, well, in your opinion, the best man in Trinidad to do your hair, right? And he could charge you more. I'll come to that, how he could charge you more, right? And sometimes you go to a waitress or waiter in a restaurant because of the way they deal with you. And you're willing to actually pay even more than what you pay for the food and give them extra tip, right? It cannot be transferred to another person. So if you buy something, a service, you can't transfer it to somebody else. Now, some services come with a product. And we'll see that in case with Bali and all these people, they have exclusive products, right? Which is different. The last point, experience. Now, this is one of the hot things in marketing now, is that people really want a good experience. So if you, and this happened to me once, I remember I went to a restaurant in South and it was my first anniversary. So I told the waiter, quietly, I said, this is my first anniversary, right? I didn't say anything more. And we went in there. And when I started eating chicken, I say, wait, now this is yard for chicken. The chicken kind of hard, And the waiter just didn't get it. This is a special moment. He should have picked it up. So I got a little upset. My wife said, no, don't complain, this story with these people, all kind of thing. So I said, I want to talk to the chef. So I talked to the chef, and the chef was very understanding. He said, no, no, if you don't like it, take it. I said, you can taste it. He said, no, he ain't tasting it. And they were able to refund my money. Of course, if he didn't, since official sales writing in newspapers, I would have tell him I'll put them in the next week's newspaper. Normally, when I say that, I get a full refund. I do that very often. If you don't believe me, you could join me in a restaurant and you see how I get free food. People afraid me, All right. So what are the different ways to price? And you probably have that in the chart there. And you probably know now, according to the man who wrote the Bible, which is Philip Kotler, there are about 9 different ways. And every time you have an edition, he have a 10 ways, and you have a 11 and a 12, and he only changed in 1 or 2, and he have about 25 editions, right? So my students just get upset. They say, which edition? I say, pick anything after the 6th edition. Same thing, photograph change and all that, but same thing. But he's a marketer too, right? So there are essentially 3 ways to price. And I know there are more, right? But we're not going to complication here. I only have a couple of things. I call them the 3 C's of pricing, right? So the first one is you got to know your cost. And sometimes entrepreneurs don't know their cost. Now you might say, you have to go back accountant. No, you don't have to go back accountant. I mean, if you're making plenty money, you have a big factory, you go to accountant. Of course, accountant will do that for you. If you're a small entrepreneur like myself, is that I would cost based on the time it takes to develop a product, right? So if you making let me say making coconut bake, excuse me, you will calculate all the variable costs like the labor and all that, and the fixed costs, use of the ovens and raw materials will all be a variable cost. And then you will add a markup. We come into that just now. The question is, what markup do you add, right? I'll talk about that just now. Then you have competitive pricing. Now you got to be aware because your customers in this era know what everybody prices is. You just Google it and you'll find out what people charging, right? Competitive pricing doesn't mean that you're going to charge the same thing for this for let's say for the same product, or it might be a different product. You could be high, it could be low. So use it as a kind of a gauge, right? So that's competitive pricing. And I'll talk a little bit about that in detail. Customer value pricing. This is the trickiest one. Value is really created in the mind of the customer. And you got to figure out now what value you're creating for them. Sometimes people willing to pay more. And you know what? People willing to pay more, but they don't, people charge them less. I got stuck with this one once. Somebody hired me to do a job in St. Lucia, right? And I charged him a fairly good price. When I got there, I'm the feature speaker and a presenter, and I got a chance to present for 1 hour. A guy came in there, and I had to do a part of a book too, which was even more. He came in and talked for 20 minutes about value chain, which is my Michael Porter, and he got 75% of what I got. Now, it was nobody's fault. It was my fault. I didn't recognize that these people is an international institution, right? They're willing to pay more. So I said, maybe I'll get a job down the road. But I never got one after that. Because that was a one-off project they got grant funding for, right? Right, so let's talk about a little bit about cost plus pricing. And you probably know this answer to this one. What are the disadvantages of it, right? Well, one is that how much do you mark up? Do I mark up 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%? What is it? And sometimes you don't know. So you're going to try to figure out what could you charge them that they wouldn't complain, and what would also give you enough profits, right? My whole thing is that I don't want to make excessive profits. I want to do a fair amount of volume. But if 25 people come to me and ask me to do training in 1 or 2 months, I can't do it. Right? I don't have the capacity. Plus, nobody could do what I am selling here. I can't hire anybody because they can't do it. Like if I'm training insurance agents to sell SMEs and family business, there are not too many people versed in that area, right? Well, as far as I know, I haven't encountered anybody. In fact, when I do a quote for people, They come back. And they said in the trick was, I said, great, go ahead, make my day, Clint Eastwood style. And they come back empty-handed and they say, okay, we're going to take that back. Because there's nobody else. Make sure I craft out my product properly, right? So I don't do customer service training because I have about 10,000 people in training with that. And they're better than me, so I keep all that anyway, right? The advantage of cost plus is that you're covering your costs all the time. And if you know your markup is 50%, you could give a discount, no problem, but you're still at 40%, right? So that's one of the issues of cost plus pricing. But then there's competitor pricing, right? So as I said, it's not the same thing as charging what your competitors are charging. You just use it as a gauge. Now here's how you can mix them up a little bit. I say it's puff and stuff. I like to do the puff and stuff. That's in South, right? So the South people know puff and stuff, right? There's a bakery like Linda's, And they have a current roll that they sell. Last time I checked was about $12. Pretty expensive, but there are plenty currency in it, right? So the competitors, when you eat their current roll, you ask, where is the currency? You look all about, maybe it fall out in the bag or something, right? But so they can get away with that 12. Now, I like my currency. Me like no sultanas and me like no whatever there is. So you expect to pay more, right? Some people, when they do coconut bake, like I think Puff and stuff did, like they throw some on top of it. Because before you buy it, you don't taste it. You have to look at it and you see the coconut on top. So when you see the coconut crumbs, or you're going to call it, on top, you say, nice. This thing must have coconut. Because sometimes when you eat a coconut bake or you ask, where is the coconut? Did somebody steal the coconut while it's coconut baking or something like that? Service too is very important. If you could attach a very good service, and service is hard to copy. Anytime you deliver something that's hard to copy, you could charge more because they have no choice, right? Variety is also important. And you see the supermarkets now, and I come into the almighty supermarket in a little while, um, like Massey, they probably have minimum 15,000 what they call SKUs, which is items on the shelf. So if you go into a shop, it's very likely you'll find what you're looking for. They may price a little bit more, and I suspect that because I have a little supermarket in the area here. I find it sell cheaper than Massey. I'm not criticizing Massey, but I would do the same thing probably. And of course, they hit you some more service. They have pay, Shopee or something I didn't have on the side, and other things, right? So it becomes very difficult. How do you deal with Massey? You have no choice. I mean, I go there, I floors clean and all that. I happy. I mean, I would use the washroom too with my kids because when they would say no when they leave home, they don't use the washroom. And you reach in Massey, they want to use the washroom. So and have a nice clean washroom there, right? Right. So here's the trickiest one, customer value pricing. If you master this one, I guarantee you're going to make some money, right? Now, you got to figure out what people willing to pay. Now, they may tell you things that suggest, sometimes there's high things to be, right? So let's say you're an event manager and somebody call you up and say, we're having our 50th anniversary celebration and all my family coming from New York, Miami and Boston and London to this event. They're willing to pay more. Now, you might say, am I saying that this is the rip off the customer? No, it isn't. You're going to give them more and you're going to charge them more because this is something important for them, right? So when you hear things like that, if somebody hires a landscaper and they tell you, hey, I have some palms or they were $3,000, when you're prudent, take your time with that. And you should because you don't want to pay 3,000. I hear that $3,000 palms or I don't know how true that is. I only buy avocados and for $75, but that's still important. So you don't know this person needs somebody who understands what to do, right? You don't have some people who claim to be landscapers, but are groundsmen. Oh, I know groundsmen, you know. Also, I told a guy, I said, when you work in a lunch park, do you sell the same price as while living Chase with it? He said, yes, and that's a big mistake. Where I live is $70 a square foot for the land, and there's $250 a square foot. So charge them about 50% more. If they complain, tell them they should move out of lunch pack and come and live Chase with us. Well, that was a joke really for him, right? He say, yeah, boss. I say, but they want a clean job. They don't want grass cut high and low and all kind of thing. They want to show the neighbors that they have a nice piece of lawn, even though the lawn is just a 10 by 10. Not like my yard, right? So in customer value pricing, it's more about perception of benefits. And we notice in marketing, perception is reality. If they see it that way, that you are really good, you are good, right? Now you might ask, why do I write in newspaper? And some people always ask me, how money does get paid? And they give me all kind of answers. They say $500 and $1,000 and ask him, is that US or TT? And I'm going to break the news for you. All them articles I wrote in the Guardian, I was not paid 1 cent. In fact, they never even give me a free subscription. I see they giving free subscription to tertiary level students. I say, my goodness. But guess what? When you're writing in Guardian, I'm not selling newspapers, no, but I do sell newspaper and I write an article, right? Because I'm trying to sell newspapers. Because when I sell newspapers, they're printed, and then I try to sell myself subliminally, of course, right? So when you're writing for the Guardian, let me tell you what happened in my business, the service business, is that it's like Star Trek. You know, when they know you from the newspapers, his door is just open. Before I had to open the door and price it open. The door open and I told people they will come back later all kind of retired here from all kind. When they, hey, you got it, I know you, man. And we started talking all kind. Then they started telling me things about what I wrote a year ago. I met a guy, he's a fan of mine, right? But I'd never encountered one like that. So I said, good, I will meet a fan. He started to come out and ask me, all right, about this and about that. I can't remember, I get old. So I say, yeah. Right? All right. So here's an interesting thing, right? I know a local burger joint charges more than for hamburger than you would get at Burger King. And you might say that is impossible. Burger King is a global brand. The advertising, they have um, washrooms and they have name tags and credit card. And this guy, he just make a different burger. He's a local burger with fresh seasoning. You can see the green seasoning, right? And he could also puts chow mein on top. I talked about this last time. Chow mein on top of the burger instead of lettuce and tomatoes. And people willing to pay $50, which is almost a 20% premium on that. And the guy doing well, right? In fact, I don't even know the guy name. I hear people call him on, in working that a name tag. I hear people call him on ballhead. Well, I shame to call him on Ballhead. So I call him on Mr. Ballhead, but that caused everybody to look around because nobody ever called him on Mr. Ballhead. And I'm glad everybody moved around. I just moved forward and I gave him a burger and I digs off him. Right? I don't line and thing. Right. So here's a little trick you could play with your customer, right? To kind of get him to pay more. When you're pricing a product, try to attach a service there, right? Or if you have a service, attach a product there. So as I said before, is that you kind of trick in their mind that they're really hard to compare with a competitor because they may not have this. Now, car companies do something tricky. If you bought a car recently, is that they probably don't make much money on the core product. I suspect Sun and Sales don't make much money on those Kias, right? But they make, or even Quartz, they sell your fridge and they sell your extended warranty. And we know this. We have some fridges now that they're very complicated. In fact, the first guy came to fix our fridge after the warranty expired. I think the fridge was smarter than him. I hate to say that the fridge man, in fact, some of the cars now, the car's smarter than the mechanic. Because the old mechanic knew how to find the problem, but today's cars, the car is tell you what's wrong with it. So that is give them a little problem, that's what. So they add things like leather seats and they may add roadside assistance. So you get the customer get confused, right? And they may pay the price. Service can be a differentiator for like TGI Friday. TGI Friday is a nice quiet environment and service is good and all that. Right. Now, let me just go to the next one. Now, let's talk a little bit about these supermarkets. You might find these supermarkets, I used to work in the supermarket business. You might find that's a boring place. You just want to go in there and come out. But that might be a mistake. You're going there and they know how to keep you there and know how to get as much money and you don't even know it. Let me tell you here's the problem supermarkets face. And you may face this problem too, is that 20% of the items in a supermarket, you don't make no money at all, but it accounts for almost, let me say, close to 50% of the sales. So these are loss-making things. So the supermarket know how to figure out how do we make some money, right? So here's what they do. So they will use them as a puller. So they'll put flour at the bottom of the shelves, which is less than premium shelf space. Premium shelf space is the one right up in front of you, right? So that's where you see. So they put it at the bottom because they know you're going to look for the rice and flour. You're going to leave the supermarket without that, right? But higher above the flour, they will put rolling pins and chocolates, the baking chocolates and the cups and all those fancy things there that have a higher margin. Now, they know when you come there, you have the frame of mind of somebody going to do baking, cooking roti. So you pick up the bella, as they call it, or the rolling pin. I don't know what you call it, right? So,
Hi, Sajad.
yeah, how much time have I?
Five more minutes.
5 minutes to leave the supermarket. All right. Right. So they play that trick with you, right? And you could probably get them into the frame of mind and then sell them more. Um, Supermarkets use to sell only ingredients to make a meal, right? The flour, the rice, the things to make a meal. But today they are selling solutions now, like cooked food, because the margins there are higher. So you think about solutions again, right? All right, so I'm going to my friend Bali here now. So one of the things that Bali, a couple of things he does, and he could get away with charging 100, 200% more for a haircut. I was told he charged 300 a few years ago, so probably 400, right? And how he does it is that he he has something called what I call his service scheme. So when you enter Bali's place, in fact, when I entered, I started talking normal volume, and then they said, no, you can't. You have to whisper inside here. So you have to go up close to them and whisper. I said, my goodness. I said, this place had to be expensive. I tell them, let me leave here. Said, no. There were no function on us. I say nothing. So what he does is that he designed his space and he put out a picture of Wendy Fitzwilliam and a whole set of people, right? So you don't know. You come here for no $40 haircut, right? Now, he does not have an anonymous brand. When you have an anonymous brand, that's the worst thing you can have. People just don't take you on at all. So he was able to, yes, build a brand, right? And his target, and this is how you can get people to pay more, target the affluent in his case, and they will pay more. And that's customer value pricing. All right, so about 2 3 minutes. Let me just summarize here. So pricing is the way to make a profit or to make a larger profit if you get it right. Your pricing strategy sends a message to your customers. So course is saying we're the cheapest on the block. Well, of course, there's take care with all them warranties and all those things. Pricing to me is both a science and an art, right? Pricing a product is, of course, different from a service and vice versa. We talked about the three ways to price. And the one that offers the most opportunity for me is customer value pricing, right? And I think they will send you this so you can get my free mini ebook, which is only about 40 pages, but tells you more about how the mindset of the entrepreneur is. Right? Did I finish on time? I'm not
Yes,
hearing you.
Sajad, you were awesome as usual,
Thank you.
right? I do hope that everyone enjoyed your presentation on pricing for profit.
Right.
And we now turn the floor over to Adana. All questions placed in the chat will be addressed at the end of Adana's presentation.
Hi,
Oh,
guys. Thanks so much for that, Sajad. I think it was so much great information for people to walk away with, right? So thank you so
welcome.
much for sharing all that information. So let's get into the other side of it, guys, right? Everybody can see me and hear me clearly. I like for us to get into action, right? Because the Sujat gave us a lot of information, but I like us to get into action. So tell me in the comments, right? Tell me in the comments if you have a product or a service. Even share the name of your product or your service. Tell me in the comments. Do you have a product or a service? Because as Sajad rightfully said, how you price a product is different from how you will price a service. And we're going to talk about how you go about pricing the two different things. So first, let me know, do you have a product or do you have a service? I'm seeing a lot of products, okay, one or two services. Yes, product or service, product or service, product or service. Guys, you have to remember that we're talking about pricing for profit. We're not talking pricing to just break even. We're not pricing for a loss, right? We're pricing for profit. And remember, your profit is what you make after all your expenses are paid, right? So your profit is different from your revenue. Yes, we spoke about that on Monday, and we'll do a recap again on that next week, Monday. But your profit is what you make after all your expenses are paid. And I want you to understand that every topic that we bring here is tied together. So it's not none of them are standalone topics, yes? Because your pricing is directly related to your mindset as well, right? What you choose to price is related to your mindset. And remember, we spoke about mindset last week, Wednesday. Yes. So you have to keep that in mind, because a lot of us undercharge because we do not have a strong enough belief in what we are presenting to our audience. So we want to break those things today so that you price for profit. You're not pricing to break even. So let me ask you another question. If you buy something online, let's say you're buying Bath and Body Works or a phone or some clothes or candles to resell, what do you think is a reasonable amount of money you should charge for it? So let's say you purchase something for 50 USD. Yes, 50 US dollars. Let's round that off to like 300 TT, right? You pay 300 TT for this thing. What do you think is a reasonable amount of money to charge your audience for it? Tell me in the comments, because we want to get into the nitty-gritty of how you actually go about charging and the things that you need to take into consideration. Because Sajad spoke to us about the 3 different types of pricing strategies, and that's great, and those are very, very important. And you have to figure out which strategy will make sense for your business, right? So if you paid 300 TT dollars for this particular thing, right? How much do you think you should charge people? I'm seeing 400, 450, $500. How much do you think you should charge people? 10% of the original price, $600. Yes? And that is the point. So many people could have different prices. It's not a one size fits all. You have to determine, based on your business model, what type of costing strategy will work best for you. Yes? You have to figure out what will work best for you. So when you're pricing something, when you're pricing for profit, you have to take different things into consideration. So we're going to talk about if you're pricing a product first, and then we'll talk about what do you think you need to take into consideration if you have a service. Yes, guys? You have to also think about all the other things that you have to add in order to make that profit. And guys, let me just say this before we go forward, and Sajad touched on this. Do not underprice yourself. Do not underprice yourself. A lot of entrepreneurs, when they're now starting off in business, say to themselves, I need to charge as low as possible because I feel by charging as low as possible, I will attract more people. That is not the truth. What you are going to attract is some very, very cheap people. And you don't want cheap people around you. Yeah, nobody wants cheap people around you. Do not undercharge with the hope that you are going to attract more people. Cheap attracts cheap, and we don't want that. And at some point in time, you will have to raise your price, right? And then those people are going to start to complain, and we don't want those people in our inboxes and in our businesses, right? So don't start off your business by charging the cheapest. The other thing, do not run your business off of discounts. Let me say that again. Do not run your business off of discounts. There will be times during the year, yes, you may want to give a discount if you're having maybe a sale or something like that. So discounting is not wrong, but your whole business model, right, or your whole costing model should not be based on discounts because that is a surefire way for you not to make your profits, right? Everything should not be discounted, right? And again, what that is going to do if you have sale after sale after sale after sale? What that is going to do is to signal to your audience that I can wait until he's having a sale and then I will buy, right? What kind of audience is that? Again, that's a cheap audience. That is a discount audience. Who wants that kind of audience? Yes, guys, tell me in the comments if it's making sense. Does that make sense? Give me some thumbs if it's making sense. Give me some thumbs if it's making sense, guys. So we're not undercharging. Yeah, give me some thumbs. And we're not discounting our business with the hope that we are going to attract more people, because it definitely it definitely does not work that way, right? So let's go into it really, really quickly, right? So unless you're buying in bulk, it's very difficult to charge a low price, right? Wholesalers have that advantage. So if they have 10,000 of something in their warehouse, yes, they may be able to price something on the lower end. But if you're a retailer, you're a smaller business owner, you're a solopreneur, it's very, very hard for you to charge a very low, what we may consider low price, right? And also get sales. So some of the things that you have to take into consideration if you are selling a product and you're about to price it. So let's even talk about that $300 product that you brought in. You have to take into consideration, how much did you pay for shipping and handling? How much are you paying for packaging that item if somebody comes in? And if you have to ship it to them. How much are you paying for transport? Right? If you're doing delivery services, how much are you paying for storage? What are your overheads like? Do you have staff to pay? How much are you paying yourself? So when you get an item or you even make an item, right? If you're making a product, you're making candles or you're making body creams or whatever, you're making clothes, you have to take all of the other things, all of the other expenses into consideration for you to come to one price. If you're making a dress, you're not just going to think about the cost of the cloth alone, right? You're going to think about the cost of the cloth. You're going to think about the cost of the buttons, of the zipper, your time, your electricity. Yes. So you have to start to think about what are all the other things I have to add to my initial cost for me to come up with the real cost of my product. Making sense? And as Sajad said as well, one of the other things you have to do, look at what your competitors are charging, right? Look at what your competitors are charging so that you can get a ballpark figure. It doesn't mean you have to go and charge exactly what they are charging, but for you to get a ballpark figure. Yeah? Tell me in the comments, are you also adding your shipping and handling, your packaging, your transport, your storage, your lights, your internet, your salary, and all of these other things into your pricing right now? Is anybody doing any of those things? And also tell me in the comments, do you think you need to raise your prices in order for you to make a profit? The price that you are charging right now for your product, do you think you need to raise your prices? And raising your prices does not have to be something exorbitant. It doesn't have to be 100% markup. It could be something as simple as a 5% markup, right? And guys, charging your worth and charging what something is worth is not wrong, because cheap thing not good and good thing not cheap. Right? And you want to attract a certain type of client. People, it's about the psychology of selling, right? People tend to be drawn to things that are more expensive because they automatically assume, remember Sajad talked about perception, right? They assume the quality is higher. That's the example of barley, right? They assume the quality is much higher because the price is a bit higher. Yeah, make sense? So don't undercharge yourself, don't discount yourself, don't set up your business as a discount business. Yes, and take all the other things into consideration. And guys, this is the best time because we're going into Christmas, we're nearly into the new year, to start to really look at your prices and figure out, do I need to raise my prices by $5 or $10 right now so that I am closer to achieving profits in my business as opposed to just breaking even, right? Because I'm sure many of you, especially when you're now starting in business, you're breaking even or you are operating at a loss. If you're operating at a loss, that means you have to make some major changes in your business. Yeah? Because the question you have to ask yourself is, do I want to be known as the cheapest option or the best option? Answer me in the comments. Do I want to be known as the cheapest option or the best option? Tell me in the comments. The cheapest option or the best option? And the best option is not cheap. The best option is not cheap. Yeah? So let's go on to, that's for product-based businesses. Let's go on to service-based businesses, because I know many of you have a service-based business. And Sajad spoke about if you have a product, add a service to it, and if you have a service, add a product to it. And that's a great way for you to increase your profit margins as well, right? The thing is, with a service-based business, the same rules apply to an extent, right? The thing with your service-based business, so like I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, I have products, but I am charging for not just my time, because that's the first thing everybody thinks, right? But I'm also charging for my intellectual property, the things I have in my head. So if you're a bookkeeper, if you're a coach, you're a consultant, you're a sales strategist, you're doing any kind of training or whatever, you are charging for your intellectual property, right? I'm sure you have all heard the joke already. I know Akisha would like this kind of stale joke, but I'm sure you've all heard the joke already about the plumber who came and he worked for 5 minutes by just knocking the thing, and he charged $10,000. Yes? And when they asked him, but how could you charge $10,000? He was like, it's my intellectual property. I went to school to learn how to do this thing, or I paid and did courses to learn this particular thing. So I am charging you for my intellectual property. And as a service based in business, that is what you have to keep in mind. So it's a mixture of your time and intellectual property, right? And if you're talking about time, right, because we know time is money, we're talking about time to do the research, yeah, time to put together the information. If you're doing one-on-one coaching, or if you're doing group coaching or consultancy, or training, if you're doing group training or whatever, the time to put the information together, yeah, the time to share that information. So this time that we might be talking to you, because this is service, right? This time that we are taking out of our day to share with you, or you're also charging for this time. And then you're also going to be charging for the time to answer the questions after about the information, about the information that you are sharing with your audience. So as a service-based business, right, what you have taken into consideration is, yes, what are other people in my industry or my niche charging for something that is similar or the same, right? Again, not to go and charge exactly what they are charging, right? But to come up with a price that makes complete sense, right? And then what amount of time am I putting forward to get this whole thing together to then give it to my audience. So it's your time and your intellectual property when you are a service-based business. Make sense, guys? Those with service-based businesses, tell me in the comments, does it make sense? Do you think that you have to raise your prices right now if you are a service-based business? Do you think you need to raise your prices right now if you are a service-based business? Yes. My commissions are fixed. I'm trying to see everything in the chat. Next year for sure. So Elizabeth says, it makes a little sense, but some may be harder than others based on the industry. How do you pay yourself, right? And that's something we spoke about on Monday, and we're going to talk about it again Monday again about how you pay yourself and why you should be paying yourself, right? Because there are different rules of thumb of how you can pay yourself, whether it's weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, if you choose a percentage of your services or your product, or if you choose a particular dollar amount, right? Would it be wise to raise now due to the economy? That is where you have to do the research. What is happening in your industry? What is happening in your niche? Guys, don't be afraid, because unfortunately, this is what we're living in, right? This is what we're living in. But people are still actually buying. 2020 and 2021 were actually the best years in business for me, even though we were in the middle of COVID, right? So don't let what is happening deter you. The people will pay for value. People will pay for quality, right? Once you as an entrepreneur show your audience the value of the thing that you are providing for them, they will pay. I price based on the needs. I also did better in 2020 myself. Yeah. Yeah. Any questions about pricing? Any other questions, guys? Put them in the comments first so that we can see them. Kelly has a good question. She says, how do you, just only, you went away from me just now. I'll find it back. Akisha, do you see Kelly's question?
I'm in the process of pulling it back up.
Denzel asks, in your opinion, should I raise the price now as it's Christmas and people tend to spend more at Christmas, or do it at the beginning of the year? Do it now. I would say do it now, and move forth. Let your audience know. If you have to raise your price, I let my audience know in advance that prices will be raised so that they can prepare themselves and make a decision about what they have to do. For my service-based businesses, what I tend to do is I keep my old clients on the old price, my existing clients on the old price, and new clients I put on my new pricing scale. Is delivery applied separately or incorporated in the service provided? Delivery, or you mean the product? What do I have to consider when pricing my products? So you have to consider all your overhead costs. You have to consider your if you brought something in, the shipping and handling. You have to consider, am I transporting these things to people? Then what would that price be? You know, am I using any other resources? What are all the resources that you are using to create this particular product? You have to add all of those things together to come up with your true price for your product.
Right. Adana, Kelly asked, how do you work out your cost for yourself? Is there a calculation? Also, profits and labor, how do you work that out?
Okay, so how I work out a price for myself, again, that is something that I just decided for myself, especially when you're now starting out, right? Obviously, you can't pay yourself $5,000 a week or a month off the bat. As I was sharing my story on Monday, I started by paying myself $50 a week, And every week, as my business grew, I just started to increase the amount that I was paying myself. So now when I pay myself on Friday at 9 o'clock, it's a nice hefty sum. But that didn't happen off the top of the bat, just off the bat, right? I chose $50 based on what my pricing was for my services at that time. Um, and after I paid all my other overheads, because I had internet to pay, if I had to go to somewhere to speak, after all of my overheads were paid, $50 was easy for me to take without feeling a crunch, right? And then I started to increase it. What was the second part of Kelly's question?
The second part of Kelly's question was also profit and labor. How do you work out?
Well, labor is a little different and labor is a little tricky. It depends on how the person works for you. So I have two virtual assistants who work with me, right? And they don't work every single day. They work a particular amount of hours per week. But how you charge for labor is that how you price is that you have to make sure that the task that you're giving the people who are working with you will bring back a return on the investment, right? And I know that's something we'll dive into deeper in as we go into more of these sessions, but you have to make sure it's a return on the investment. So the work that my virtual assistants do for me pays their salary. You understand what I'm saying? It pays their salary. And that's because I'm very, very specific about what they do. They're not doing arbitrary things. They're doing specific tasks in my business that is bringing income into my business. So that part of what they're doing is paying their salary, and the extra is to me. So if your cost is just saying $20, what do you price? Can you? And I'm not understanding the question, Nakisha. Risha, as I said, you choose what you want to pay yourself, and you can choose either a percent of your product or your services, or you can just choose a dollar amount. So I chose a dollar amount at the end of every Friday. So you just start like that. Remember, guys, you are employees in your businesses. So you always want to think about, if I had somebody working for me, what would I be comfortable paying them? So you want to think of yourself as an employee because you are doing the majority of the work. So you need to also get accustomed paying them. So Jad mentioned charging one price for a certain group and another price for another group. The landscaping example. How do you do that from a marketing standpoint? Is Jad on?
Yeah, I'm on. Okay. Well, it depends on the customer itself, right? So if you have a affluent customer with nice, expensive palm trees and all that, and you see that, you could charge them more because they could pay more. If somebody could pay more and not ripping them off because you're delivering more value for them, right? Let's put on my video here.
Mhm.
And so you could do that, and maybe another customer want a bare bones product, and then you do that. Of course, as you go along, you realize that you may gravitate towards the more premium customers, and you may end up dropping off some customers as your business develops. It happened to me is that certain things I wouldn't do again. Like originally, people at company write business plans for them, so I don't do that. I give a colleague that he likes to write business plans, but I can show people in your organization how to write a business plan, because I believe when I show you how to do that, you can now do your own business plan from now on. And actually, I get more money out of that than if I do the business plan for them, right? And so I hope that answered that question.
So, Jad, I have another question for you.
Yeah, go
This
ahead.
is from Natasha. I would like to know how to price my products. I usually break even or run at a loss.
Well, I have to know more about what the product is, right? Well, you could go back to the three ways to price, right? So look at your costs and see what you're marking up. And look what competitors are charging for a similar type product as yours. So you get an idea. But the last one is what customers are willing to pay for your product, right? And you're going to have to, if you are going after the wrong target, let's say you're trying to sell Mercedes Benz to people like me. you wouldn't sell any Mercedes Benz, right? You probably might sell me a pickup or something like that, right? So maybe you need to change your target. There's let me mention this. There's a concept called a J customer, where you have a customer that is on the wrong side of the street. Not gay, I didn't say gay, I said J customer, right? And sometimes you gotta avoid some of them because they always want a discount. And when you give them a discount, you end up making no money. So the J customers, sometimes you can make them pay more, but sometimes I hate to say this, but you may have to, I don't want to say fire the customer, but they will not be the right one to pay the price for you, right? So you gotta watch out and see if you have any J customers, customers on the wrong side of the street.
Okay, thank you very much, Sajad. And as we have you on the floor, one last question. How do you charge for labor? Doreen wanted to know this.
How do I charge for labor? I wonder if it's my labor or that's a good question. Now, maybe she asking this
Let's
question
assume it is your labor
my
as
labor.
an
Okay,
entrepreneur.
right. So this is interesting. People ask me, well, if you own the company, do you pay yourself a salary or do you take a profit at the end? Now, here's how you can do it. It depends on the stage of your business. When I started off, I made no money, and that's not unexpected. And I couldn't pay myself, not even $50. That seemed to be the going price for Madonna back then, right? But she was talking 50 US dollars, right? Okay. So what I would do when I cost a product, I'll put my salary in there, and then the balance is my profit. But what happened in the beginning is that even though I cost it from my salary in there, I did not withdraw it from the company. I had to put it back in because I want the company to grow, right? So your company should operate like this: is that while you own the company must, you're an employee of the company, but you're also a shareholder of the company. So you actually have two types of compensation. You get a salary as an employee because you're working for this legal entity which you own, and then the profits also come to you. But in the early stages, you wouldn't be able to get both compensation. I know that you have to wait till, and you have to notice, and you have to be careful. Most trainees, as soon as they start to make money, boy, they start to take out money from the business. And be careful that you don't do that because I know a lady I was advising, and she went straight off. She was doing pretty well, and she bought a new car and all that. And then after that, things started to go sour, and then she ended up closing down the business, right? So those are the flash, as we say.
And that is something that I know Laddie will come and speak about on Monday with money goals, right? And having a goal for the money that you're making and that kind of thing, right? So there's a strategy behind how you pay yourself and how you take the money that you make in your business and redistribute it in your business, as Sajad said, as a shareholder, because you have to reinvest into your business as your business is growing. Yeah.
Okay, great. And we have two questions that I guess you or Sajad can take. Taste Empire is asking, is there a formula attached to calculating food items per pound or ounce? The raw materials separate and apart from labor. Okay, that's one question. And the other question before we wrap up is from Risha, who is asking, should one do a market survey, even if informal, even if a small number of products to start? A person's more willing to pay more money at certain times of the year, like Christmas, Father's Day, etc.
I would take that second question and just say what I like to do is do like beta testing, right? Which is taking a small group of people and asking them to either try out the product for a certain period of time, if that's a product you have, or if you have a service-based business, let them join your program or something for a specific period of time in a small group, and those are called your beta testers, and then get their feedback because there's a little danger in, I mean, we all have to do market research, but there's a little danger in just putting it out there arbitrarily to anybody. How much would you pay for this, because you may be asking people who are not your ideal clients, and you want to make sure you get the feedback from your ideal clients, not from the, what Sajad call them, the J people, the people on the other side of the road. Right? Because those people, they're gonna tell you the lowest price. They're not going to really, the jaywalkers, right? They're not going to tell you the real price, right? So doing that market research, there's a particular way you should be doing that market research, so that you get a real and a truer sense of what people might be willing to pay, and just the value of the product or service that you're offering.
Right. Okay. Fisher, you got to help me with that question again. You want to read it? I
The
know
food.
Adana avoided
Yes,
giving
I'll
me
reread
I
the
don't know about the
question.
formula first, so that's why I wouldn't answer that.
Let me hear that question again.
Okay, so the question from Taste Empire is there a formula attached to calculating food items per pound or ounce? The raw materials separate and apart from labor.
Well, I'm not so sure how to answer that, but
Mhm.
I remember we had a food business, right? And we would price, you have to calculate, like when you're dealing with, let's say we're dealing with cassava-based products, and when you buy a pound of cassava, and you have to remove the skin and remove the moisture and all that, and freeze it, you have to know how the yield and stuff would work, right? Because you lose stuff when you're processing, right? And so that's how, and when we package it, we try to, if it's an expensive item, we try to package it in a certain amount that will not come across as too expensive, right? So if, like for example, Haagen-Dazs, if you look at how they price, is they have the very small one, and the price is expensive, Haagen-Dazs, because it's super premium ice cream. It's not just premium, it's super premium ice cream, right? And they would price, originally when they entered the market, they entered with a small size. As people started buying, they started liking, and they get hooked on Haagen-Dazs. Then you could have bigger sizes as you go along. I'm not sure if I answered the question, but I hope I did answer that question.
Okay, thank you very much, Sajad and Adana. Um, okay, Taste, you're satisfied by the response. I can see that. Everyone in the chat, when the welcome message was sent, you were assured that we had a treat in store for you. We do hope that you enjoyed today's presentation on pricing for profit. And we do want to remind you all that a repeat session will be done on the 15th of November, specifically dealing with setting money goals for entrepreneurs, right? Please feel free to send your comments on, well, your feedback on today's session so that we can take note of it to, also understand if it is really right track, if it is you are satisfied with what, oh, I'm loving these emojis. If you're satisfied um, with the presentations and the content shared and the ability of the facilitators to address all of your entrepreneurial concerns, Tamara raised her hand. Okay. Okay. Right. Monday's session will be redone next week, Monday, the 15th, because there were technical issues across the board, right? So I can't exactly tell you all to please reach home safely, because from what I can see, most of us are doing the safe thing and we're inside. But I can say, do have a wonderful evening. We do look forward to seeing. Oh, wonderful. I'm loving these comments. I'm sure that our present presenters are also pleased, right? So thank you very much for joining us today on part 3 of our 8-part journey. And we do look forward to seeing you next week, Monday. Same link. Bye, Sajad. Thank you very much, Sajad and Adana.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, be blessed.
Bye.